Have you ever stopped to truly wonder what a woman really feels when you're not around? I think most men assume it's simple, that she's just waiting by the phone, missing you, or replaying your last conversation in her head. But from a woman's perspective, let me tell you the truth is far more complicated and far more profound than that. If you don't understand this truth, you risk losing the very foundation of the relationship without even realizing what you did wrong. Because a woman's mind, in your absence, becomes a stage, and on that stage her true level of attraction and respect for you is revealed. This is where your strength, your self-respect, and your masculine presence are truly measured. You see, when you're not there, she isn't just thinking about the last thing you said. She is feeling the weight of your energy. She's feeling your discipline, your purpose, the impact you have on her world. If that impact is weak, needy, and dependent on her for validation, she will unconsciously drift away. But if it's strong, centered, and rooted in something bigger than her respect, and her desire for you, will grow even more. This isn't just a modern dating concept. The ancient Stoics understood this principle perfectly. Marcus Aurelius knew that loyalty is shaped not by persuasive words, but by the undeniable evidence of how a person lives. Seneca warned against the weakness of needing constant validation, teaching that a man who is anchored in himself cannot be shaken by another person's absence. That is the energy you must learn to embrace. A presence so rooted in your own values, your own mission, that your absence actually speaks louder and more powerfully than your words ever could. It's the difference between a boy who needs constant attention and a man who commands respect, even from a distance. If you're ready to understand this deeper dynamic of attraction, if you're ready to build that kind of unshakable presence, then subscribe to this channel now. Open your mind and let's step into the first lesson. 1. She tests your value in absence. The first lesson begins the moment you are no longer in the room. It's here, in the space you leave behind, that a woman begins to test your value. This isn't a conscious, manipulative game she's playing. It's a deep, instinctual process. Your absence becomes a silent stage where your true worth as a man is either powerfully proven or quietly dismantled. A strong man understands this intuitively. He knows that his presence should leave such a profound impression that his absence still commands respect and holds weight. Think of it this way. If you are constantly available, constantly texting her good morning and good night, constantly chasing for her attention and validation, she never has the mental or emotional space to actually feel your worth. What she feels instead is your dependence on her. And let me be very clear, dependence is the silent killer of desire. It communicates neediness, and neediness signals a man who lacks his own center of gravity. He is a planet in search of a sun to orbit, and that is not an attractive role for a man to play. However, when you strategically step back, not as a manipulative trick, but because you are genuinely occupied with your own mission, your purpose, your discipline, everything changes. The dynamic flips. Her mind, now given the space to breathe, begins to ask a different set of questions. The questions are no longer about you, but about herself in relation to you. She starts to wonder, why isn't he texting me? He must be busy. What is he doing right now that's more important than talking to me? Is he focused on something bigger than just winning my approval? This internal questioning is where the magic happens. It shifts the entire frame of the relationship. You are no longer the one auditioning for her, seeking validation with every message. She is now subconsciously auditioning for you, wondering if she is interesting enough to capture the attention of a man with a purpose. This is not a game, it is fundamental human psychology. A woman is deeply, primally attracted to a man who holds himself to a standard that exists independently of her. She wants to feel that she has earned the attention of a man whom other people, both men and women, admire and respect. This is the modern application of a timeless Stoic truth. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. B1. Your absence is the perfect arena to prove this. You don't need to tell her that you're disciplined, ambitious, or confident. You demonstrate it by what occupies your time when you are not with her. Is your silence empty, filled with anxiety and waiting? Or is it full, charged with the energy of your mission, your workout, your business, your art? She will feel the difference. She will notice the profound gap between a needy boy who waits for her call and a man of value whose time she must earn. If your absence makes her respect you more, you are building the foundations of genuine, lasting attraction. If it makes her forget you, it means your presence was built on a foundation of sand. 2. Absence creates the chase. Men in the modern world have often forgotten one of the oldest and most potent truths about attraction. We, as human beings, value what we must work for. We cherish what feels like an accomplishment. When you are always present, always available, always the one giving and initiating, you systematically remove all challenge from the dynamic. You remove the mystery. And while a woman may appreciate comfort and security, deep, raw desire is almost never born out of certainty. Desire is born from the tension of the pursuit. Absence, when wielded with strength and purpose, is the single most powerful tool for igniting that chase. It is the oxygen that desire needs to breathe. When she doesn't see you for a while, when you stop responding to her messages instantly, when your life appears full, vibrant, and meaningful without her constant involvement, a seed of wonder is planted in her mind. I wonder what he's up to. That initial wondering, over time, slowly blossoms into a feeling of longing. I kind of miss him. I wonder when I'll see him again. And that longing, when given enough space, eventually ignites into active desire. I want to see him. I need to make it happen. This is the precise moment the dynamic inverts. Suddenly, she's the one reaching out first. Suddenly, she's the one asking about your schedule, trying to find a place in your world. Suddenly, she is the one investing her time, her energy, and her thoughts into the connection. She has begun the chase. The Stoics understood this principle not just in relationships, but in all areas of life. Seneca famously wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This is a profound insight into attraction. If you are constantly craving her attention, her validation, her time, you appear poor in spirit. You come across as needy and dependent. But when you live a life of self-sufficiency, a life so rich with your own purpose that her attention is a wonderful addition, but not a requirement, she begins to crave you. You flip the balance of power, not through force, but through your own internal fullness. Think of the great explorers or leaders in history. Their returns were always more celebrated than their departures. Their presence carried immense weight precisely because it was not a constant. Modern men must reclaim this understanding. Instead of smothering a woman with constant communication, hoping to keep her interest, you must learn to focus on your own empire. Your empire is your craft, your health, your mind, your finances, your mission. Make her feel your absence not as a punishment or neglect, but as a silent invitation for her to step closer, to seek you out, to earn a place in your compelling world. When a woman begins to chase you, she begins to invest. And when she invests her own effort, she creates a psychological bond with you that is far more powerful and lasting than anything you could ever buy for her, say to her, or text to her. 3. The power of silence in a world that is drowning in noise, a world where everyone talks too much and says too little. Silence is the loudest, most powerful tool a man can possess. Most men sabotage their own success with women, not because they lack looks, money, or charm, but because they cannot resist the primal urge to fill every empty space. They feel an anxious need to explain themselves, to justify their actions, to overshare their feelings, or to seek constant verbal validation. They talk their way right out of attraction. They suffocate the very mystery that fuels feminine desire. Silence, however, when used correctly, is presence without desperation. It is a form of communication that speaks volumes about your internal state. When you can comfortably withhold unnecessary words, you project an unshakable confidence. A man who is not afraid of a lull in conversation shows that he is not afraid of being judged. He isn't scrambling for her approval. He does not need her to agree with him, validate him, or even understand him in that moment to feel worthy. This can be unsettling for a woman at first, especially if she is used to men who perform for her attention. But that initial feeling soon gives way to intrigue and then to respect. She starts to wonder, what is he thinking? I can't quite figure him out. She begins to lean forward, both literally and figuratively trying to draw you out. She starts to chase not just your time, but your words. Your opinion suddenly holds more weight because it isn't given away freely. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius was a master of this. In his meditations, he constantly reminded himself to observe more than he spoke, to act rather than to boast, to be disciplined in both thought and speech. Great leaders throughout history are not remembered for how much they chattered, but for the immense weight of their words when they finally chose to speak. This is the same powerful energy a man must bring into his relationships. Let's make this practical. Suppose you text her and she doesn't reply for a few hours. The average man panics. His mind fills with anxious thoughts. He feels the urge to double text, to ask if she got his message, to chase. The man who understands the power of silence remains calm, unbothered. He simply goes about his life. That silence is a weapon. It forces her to be the one to question the dynamic. Did I lose his attention? Is he losing interest? What, or who, has his focus? Suddenly her mind is occupied with you, and she is emotionally invested precisely because your lack of a needy reaction has pulled her deeper. Even in disagreements, silence is your greatest ally. Instead of raising your voice, begging, or pleading your case, you can remain composed, hold your ground, and say nothing. Women often test a man's frame with their words, sometimes pushing and prodding, just to see if he will crack under the pressure. The man who knows when to pause, to let the weight of silence do the heavy lifting, demonstrates unshakable emotional strength. And strength, above all else, is what a woman is drawn to. Words are cheap. Your attention is expensive. When you stop wasting words and let your actions and your quiet confidence do the talking, you instantly separate yourself from the vast sea of men who are trying to talk their way into a woman's heart. Remember, this always silence is not weakness. It is control. And the man who controls himself will always control the frame of the relationship. Bridge 4. The withdrawal test, sooner or later in any dating situation, it will happen. She will pull back. Her texts will become slower. Her energy will shift. She'll seem distant. For the average man, this is a moment of sheer panic. For the man who understands this deeper game, this is the moment of truth. This is the withdrawal test. When a woman pulls back, she's not always leaving. Often she is listening. She is creating space to listen to the truth that your actions whisper when you're not there to speak for yourself. Your absence becomes a mirror, reflecting back to her who you really are, without her attention to prop you up. The test has one simple question. Without her validation, do you still stand tall? Does your world collapse into anxiety? Do you start double texting, calling, demanding explanations, or begging for a scrap of her attention? Do you post things on social media hoping she'll see them? This is an immediate and catastrophic failure of the test. Or do you remain unmoved? Do you notice her withdrawal? Acknowledge it without panic, and then immediately focus that energy back onto your own life. Do you tighten up your gym routine, go deeper into your work project, connect with your friends, and let your powerful, purposeful silence communicate that your life is full, focused, and moving forward, with or without her? One of these paths drains her of all respect for you. The other draws her back in with an almost magnetic force. The Stoic philosopher Seneca warned that we often suffer more in imagination than in reality. This is never more true than when a man faces the withdrawal test. When she steps back, is your imagination running wild with catastrophic scenarios, causing you to act out of fear and scarcity? Or are you running your imagination, choosing to see her distance not as a threat, but as a gift of time and focus to pour back into yourself? Her withdrawal is designed subconsciously to pressure your frame. It's like the way heat tempers steel. If your identity and self-worth are thin and dependent on her, the pressure will cause you to warp and break. If your identity is forged in the fires of your own discipline and purpose, the pressure will only make you harder, stronger, and more defined. Ask yourself this ruthless question. If she didn't text you back for the next 3 days, would your personal discipline improve, or would it completely disappear? Most men fail this test because they fear the empty space. They rush to fill the silence with apologies. She hasn't asked for an affection she hasn't earned. This immediately robs your presence of all its value. The strongest move you can make is profoundly counterintuitive. You give her distance the dignity it deserves. You match her withdrawal with your own. You stop performing. You stop trying to plead your case. You simply inhabit your own high standards. Her distance is not the end of the road. It is an invitation to advance into training harder, executing your work more cleanly, and investing more deeply in your own vision. When she eventually looks back in your direction, what will she see? A man in panic, or a man making progress? The answer to that question determines everything. 5. Her silent tests of your strength. Now we must go deeper. Beyond the dynamics of chasing and the strategy of silence, we arrive at the core of the issue. A woman's silent tests of your strength. Men often wonder why a woman's energy can shift so suddenly. One moment everything seems fine, and the next there is a wall of distance. What you must understand is that when you are not around, a woman does not only think about you, she also tests the image of you that she holds in her mind. These are not games. They are deep, subconscious evaluations of your integrity and your consistency. They are about her need for security, about her instinct to know whether you truly are the man you claim to be when you stand in her presence. Let me ask you a question. If she remembers your confident words but cannot feel your confident actions when you're apart, do those words still carry any weight? In female psychology, consistency is one of the most powerful and rarest measures of masculine strength. When you are absent, she subconsciously compares the two versions of you. The man you are when you are performing in front of her, and the man you are when no one is watching. If the warmth, the clarity, and the confidence you project in person do not extend into her private moments of observing your life from a distance, she begins to sense a weakness. She feels an inconsistency, and that feeling is like a crack in the foundation of her respect for you. This is the ultimate meaning behind the Stoic phrase, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be." B1. It is the very foundation of every woman's silent test. She wants to see if you embody your values, especially when you are not there to verbally prove them. Imagine two men. The first man commands attention in public. He's charming, witty, and confident. But when he is alone, or when he feels her attention drift, he becomes anxious, insecure, and his discipline crumbles. The second man is steady. He holds to his convictions and his routine with the same quiet intensity, whether he is being watched by a crowd or is completely alone. Which man do you think remains in her thoughts with a deep and unshakable respect? Which man builds attraction without even trying? The truth is, when you are not around, her intuition replays every small inconsistency. Did you say you value discipline, but she sees on your social media that you abandon your responsibilities the moment you feel lonely? Did you say you honor loyalty, but she senses you entertain the attention of others when you think she isn't looking? These contradictions are not hidden from her. They live in her intuition, and they guide her perception of you far more powerfully than your charming words ever will. This is why her silence is rarely empty. When she pulls back, she is watching. When she delays her response, she is measuring. When she creates distance, she is not always trying to hurt you. She is evaluating whether you will collapse into a pile of neediness or rise into a state of unwavering composure. And this, right here, is where most men fail the test. They chase, they explain, they panic. But the man who understands this deeper psychology does not react. He remains firm. He allows her the space to observe, because he has nothing to hide. He knows that true strength does not need to scream for attention. It proves itself through a calm and consistent character. Verse 6. The body language test. While much of your value is tested in your absence, there is an equally powerful truth that is revealed when you are in the room. This brings us to sign number 6, the body language test. A woman's words can be shaped by politeness, social pressure, and a desire to avoid conflict. But her body language rarely lies. This is why high-value men leaders and negotiators always pay far more attention to what a woman does than to what she says. You can often tell if she's truly interested or simply being polite by reading the small, unconscious signals she gives off. When a woman is genuinely drawn to you, her body will naturally try to close the distance. You'll see her lean in closer when you talk, not in a forced way, but with a relaxed, open posture. Her eyes will soften when she looks at you. You'll notice her mirroring your movements without even realizing it. If you take a sip of your drink, a few seconds later, she may do the same. If you lean back and cross your arms in a relaxed way, she might adopt a similar posture. This mirroring is her subconscious brain's way of saying, "I am in harmony with you. I feel a rapport." Another key signal is touch. A woman who is invested and comfortable will find subtle excuses to bridge the physical gap. It could be a light, fleeting touch on your arm as she laughs at your joke, a playful nudge, or her brushing something imaginary off your shirt. These are all low-risk ways for her to test the waters and establish a physical connection. Conversely, a woman who consistently avoids or subtly flinches away from any physical proximity is silently communicating that she wants to keep the interaction purely platonic. And pay attention to her feet. As strange as it sounds, our feet often tell the truth before our mouth does. They are the most honest part of our body because we are least conscious of them. If you are in a group conversation and her feet are pointed directly toward you, it's a strong sign that you are the focus of her interest. If they're angled away or pointed towards the exit, it often signals that she is psychologically leaning out of the interaction and would rather be somewhere else. As a man navigating modern relationships, you must train yourself to watch for these patterns of action, not just listen to her words. So many men waste months, even years, chasing a woman who verbally entertains them, but whose body language has been screaming no from the very beginning. The reality is, most women are conditioned to be polite. They won't outright reject you in a harsh way because they don't want to create unnecessary conflict or drama. Instead, they rely on this unspoken, non-verbal language to show their disinterest, hoping you have the social intelligence to pick up the signal and move on gracefully. If her body language consistently shows openness, warmth, and a desire for closeness, she's genuinely invested. If it consistently shows tension, withdrawal, and distance, she's not. And a high-value man knows that his time and energy should never be wasted trying to verbally convince someone who has already shown him the truth without saying a word. 7. The woman's silent tests of your absence. And now, we arrive at the final, and perhaps most important lesson. This idea synthesizes everything we have discussed. It is the ultimate test that runs silently in the background of every interaction you have. It is the woman's silent tests of your absence. Every man needs to understand this on a deep level. When you're not around, a woman doesn't just think about you. She unconsciously tests you. These are not tests she plans with pen and paper. They are deep, primal, and instinctual evaluations of your character, your resolve, and your strength. Women have always tested the strength of men, not out of malice, but out of a biological and psychological necessity. History has shown, time and time again, that a man who cannot endure, who cannot hold himself together in the face of uncertainty or absence, will ultimately fail not just his woman, but himself. Think of the powerful metaphor from Marcus Aurelius. You must be like the cliff against which the waves continually break. The cliff stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. This is the image that women, on a deep level, hope to see in a man. When you're not around, she is subconsciously asking, is he the cliff, or is he the wave? Does he crumble in my absence, chasing me for validation, losing his focus and drowning in his own insecurity? Or does he remain steady, rooted in his purpose, unmoved by the temporary storms of my distance or silence? Here is the truth many men don't want to hear. Your absence creates an arena where her trust in you either solidifies into granite or dissolves into dust. If she notices you're desperate, constantly seeking reassurance, blowing up her phone, or becoming passive, aggressive, and anxious, she silently marks it down. She may never say a word, but she has seen a crack in your foundation. The test isn't about her wanting to catch you failing. It's about her deep-seated need to know if you can lead, to know if you can be relied upon, to know if you are the kind of man who holds his ground without needing constant hand-holding. This is why so many men lose a woman's interest without ever understanding what happened. It's often not because of something they did when they were together. It's because of who she saw he was when he wasn't around. So I will ask you this. If you were to disappear from her life for 1 week, not as a game, but because you were completely consumed with building your business, training for a marathon, or finishing a creative project, would she feel abandoned and neglected? Or would she feel a sense of pride and admiration, knowing that her man has a powerful purpose that drives him? The answer to that question reveals everything. A man without a mission invites suspicion in his absence. A man with a mission commands admiration. When you're not around, her mind is asking, is he a man who leads himself, or a man who needs me to lead him? Women may enjoy your attention, but they desire your strength. They are drawn to stability. This is why the Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Meaning, if your absence makes her question things, endure it with a quiet and dignified strength. Let your actions, and your unwavering focus on your own path, prove who you are. The man who survives these silent tests doesn't just keep the woman, he earns her deepest respect. And more importantly, he earns his own. So now, let's bring it all together. Let's look at the truth we've uncovered. Throughout this journey, you've seen that what a woman truly feels when you're not around has very little to do with your last conversation, your job, or how clever your text messages are. It's not about missing your smile or your voice in a superficial way. It is about something far deeper. It is about how your character echoes in the silence you leave behind. When you leave the room, what energy remains? Is it the echo of a man who leads his own life with purpose, strength, and a calm, quiet authority? Or is it the echo of someone who gets easily shaken by uncertainty, who is reactive, and whose emotional stability depends on her validation? This is where your true power and your true attractiveness lies. Women, at their very core, are drawn to consistency, integrity, and strength. These are the foundations of trust and security. When you learn to carry yourself as Marcus Aurelius advised, rooted in your principles and unmoved by external chaos, she feels a profound sense of safety and security, even in your absence. When you embody the disciplined self-control that Epictetus taught, she feels a deep and genuine admiration, rather than a fleeting sense of doubt. You become the cliff in her mind, the steady point in a chaotic world. Here is the raw, unfiltered truth of it all. The way she feels when you're not around is the ultimate report card of your masculinity. If she feels peace, if she feels a quiet respect, if she feels an admiration for the man you are and the mission you are on, then you have passed the test. You have done the work. But if she feels chaos, insecurity, neediness, or even worse, a growing indifference, that feeling is not an indictment of her. It is a wake-up call for you. A signal that there is more work to be done. A higher version of yourself to build. So I will leave you with this final question. When you walk away, when you hang up the phone, when you are no longer there to speak for yourself, do you leave behind a legacy of trust or a vacuum of uncertainty? The answer to that question will define not just your relationships, but the man you are becoming. Subscribe, stay focused, and continue to build the man who commands respect, in presence and in absence.